Hello and welcome to the Oley Valley School District's Teachers Tech Academy Asynchronous Professional Learning Program. My name is Jen Hoffman and I will be your guide today as we dive into instructional technology perspectives, strategies, and tools for teaching and learning. Today, we're going to go through the gradable materials in Schoology online course. I'm going to review the different key features and forms, review the 4 graded materials that we can create in Schoology, and talk a little bit about how we use them and set them up to create a more efficient sync process into our Infinite Campus gradebook. So let me share my screen and we will begin. Okay, today I'm going to be sharing my entire screen. So I'm going to bounce back and forth between the student view, which is the view that you have of this course, and my teacher view, which is what I will use to model how we set up the different materials. My recommendation for you when you're watching this is to watch this video in a separate window from your normal tabs so that you can have the video minimized in the corner of your screen, much the way you would do it if this was a live Zoom, and then be able to follow along with your Sandbox course and be able to create the same materials and access the same materials as I'm showing them on the screen. So as I'm screen sharing, my screen will be up and will be in that small video for you so you can see what's happening in the course, and then you can be working in your own Sandbox course to be building and following along. That's the goal. So let's get started. Today's course is Gradable Materials in Schoology, Teachers Tech Academy 2021, and it is this icon where you can see test, quiz, and assessment. You should have already received, if you're watching this video, you've already received the code and managed to join the course. So once you click in, this is the first view that you're going to see. Now, all of my courses for the Teachers Tech Academy are set up similar. Starts with an introduction page. You're certainly welcome to look at that, and that has some overview information about the Teachers Tech Academy. This is a summer 2021 program. It is available for flex time or work outside the classroom hours pay. You just need to put those forms into your building principal and get them approved in that way. Completing this course counts for a half day of training. So that's what you're earning by completing the activities in this course. And the benefit of doing it through Schoology is, of course, that you can work on it in any environment and any place that you have access. So if you're sitting by the pool, I envy you, but I hope you're comfortable, and let's get started. We are having optional in-person sessions. They are listed at the top of every course. Today's in-person session, or this course's in-person session, was recorded on July 1st, Thursday, July 1st, and those happen at the Oley Valley Elementary School through the month of July. First thing you're going to come across is this Gradable Materials Course Requirements PDF. When you click on it, you can open it within the window. And this is just a checklist. You're welcome to print it if you want to have paper next to you. It's a checklist of everything that's required so that you know what you need to complete in order to get full credit for this course. And that's just available for your quick review and reference point throughout the course. Now, all my classes are set up the same. They all start with a blue Start Here folder. I have orange unit folders, red is resource folders, and then the final performance task is in a green folder. Every one of these professional development courses has a final performance task, and that must be completed in order to have your pay or your flex time processed. The very last thing is a wrap-up page, and that includes a survey. So please, when you get finished, go onto that page, read the final information, sign up for any additional courses if you're interested, but also please make sure that you do complete that survey for me. It just helps to improve our online and virtual PD opportunities, validate the need for them, and also allow us to provide additional timely and relevant training for you that you can access asynchronously at your own schedule. All right, enough of all that. Let's get started with the start course here. This does start with content standards. We're using ISTE content standards. ISTE is the International Society for Technology Educators. And ISTE does maintain a series of standards for educators, for students, for education leaders, for administrators, and for school systems. We're using these as our standard basis for the Teachers Tech Academy training, and there are a variety of standards that you can find information about in the blue course. Goals and objectives. Essentially, the goal of this course is to understand that there is a set of criteria that supports syncing grades from Schoology to Infinite Campus. It is not a mysterious, magical process that never seems to work quite right. There's a way to do it, and there are some specific criteria that you need to have and understand in order to make that work and to work well. That's what we're going to go over. By the end of this class, you will know which material design criteria are necessary, which ones are optional, and how Schoology materials relate to and can mimic classroom assignment and assessment activities. You will be able to create discussions, assignments, test quiz forms, and assessments in Schoology that consistently and correctly sync to Infinite Campus. And you will be able to customize those graded materials to meet a variety of instructional needs. Now, I do have a disclaimer in this course. This is the first one. You're probably already familiar with how to make assignments, discussions, tests, and all those kinds of things. This looks like the longest course. There's a lot in here. Please know there are 4 graded materials. You are only required for the final performance task to complete and build something out of 3 of them. So you can certainly plan your work and work your plan. Choose the 3 areas that make the most sense to you and your teaching style and your classroom practice. Examine those first. But do understand that this course will remain in your archived courses for you, and you will have access to all these materials for the foreseeable future, so you can use it as a reference point later in the year when you're ready to expand and try new things. So I do have a page in here that goes over the expectations for discussions, assignments, test quizzes, and assessments, and also reviews the performance task. Again, of these 4 items, you need to choose 3 of them, create one thing for each of 3 different ones, and then you're going to compile screenshots of those materials, write a little summary that explains how you intend to use those materials in your class, and submit that as your final project and final activity. As I've been explaining, all of my courses are set up the same. This is the course map. It explains what each of the different colors folders for. Blue is where you start. Orange is a unit or a week folder. Yellow is a lesson or a day folder. Red is for resources. Green is for assessments. And purple would be for projects. In a classroom, I use a black folder for previous work. That's where I put all work that I no longer necessarily want to be hanging out in the live and available page, just to keep my page cleaned up. Everything previous goes in there so students can reference it as necessary. It maintains it and keeps it in my gradebook and keeps it live and active, but it keeps it out of the way. White and pink folders are just random folders for whatever extra little information I feel I need to put in at any given time. That's how we're going to work our way through the folders. And of course, that brings us to creating a Sandbox course. Now, this is something I want to stop here and go over with you for a second. The directions for creating a Sandbox course are right here. It's fairly simple, but it is important. Your Sandbox course is where you're going to be able to try out and make all of these different materials. I strongly recommend keep creating and keeping a Sandbox course for you, especially through the summer. We are in the process of syncing and rolling forward Schoology and Infinite Campus for the 21-22 school year. That means that your courses for 21-22 are not yet live. But if you have a Schoology Sandbox course made just for you, only you can see what's in there, you can play around, you can create folders, you can create assignments and quizzes, and you can do all of these things now and get started planning and then move them into your resources and into your live courses later on in the school year. I will be posting closer to the end of July some videos and some links, and then again sharing them through August and in September on how to move items from your Sandbox course into resources. So look for that, it is coming. Creating a Sandbox course is really simple. You're going to start by clicking on courses. Over here in the upper right corner where it says My Courses, you want to click there. And now you have your course listing page. This is where you click to join the course that you're looking at right now. Right next to that, of course, is the Create Course button. Tap Create Course, give it a name. It automatically has a default section. Give it a subject area, a level, it just has to say something, and choose a grading period. If you scroll to the bottom, there's currently a summer grading period. You're welcome to use that. And I have a long-term grading period that I've put into our Schoology starting the beginning of this summer, and it goes till August 31st, 2031. That gives you a nice long time that you can use this Sandbox course. I'll go back here and label mine. and tap create. And there you go. Now you have a live course ready for you to follow along and work through this, this Schoology training course. So you stay in your course. I'm going to pop back over to mine, open this up from the other side, and let's get started. The first thing you're going to come across is understanding sync to Infinite Campus and Gradebook. And this is really important. Once you understand the basic premise of the sync, it makes it a lot easier and a lot more intuitive to use Schoology. It really is not difficult and it is not scary. It just takes a little bit of getting used to, and you need to build a comfort level. First thing I want you to understand is, why do we have Schoology and Infinite Campus? Why do we have two programs that both have gradebooks, that both have the potential to send an assignment to a student to be a way that students can access work and send work in? And the answer is that they do the same thing, or they do similar functions, but they do different things really, really well. Individually, they are the best in class of two very different purposes. Together, they create a best environment for us to teach and work and manage our learning and manage our data. Infinite Campus is a student information system, SIS, Student Information System. It manages data. Data is everything. It is information. It is all the information about all of our students, our courses, our teachers, their families, their demographics, their grades. Everything is managed through Infinite Campus. The purpose of Infinite Campus is to gather all that information, organize it, sort it, analyze it, and be able to send it out in reports in multiple and different ways. For parents and students, they access Infinite Campus to see grades, to see GPA, and to check on attendance. For teachers, you sync your grades into Infinite Campus, verify for posting, and that is currently where you do attendance. Most of what we do as teachers does and should happen in Schoology. Schoology is a learning management system, an LMS, Learning Management System. It is the place, the interface, where all the learning and all the learning materials and resources happen. If you're virtual, it is your virtual classroom. If you're in person, it can be a resource and a way to send out digital materials to students, to make them available to students when they're not in your class in front of you, can create and provide an opportunity for communication with your students, where they can send you messages, leave comments specific to individual projects or individual assignments or assessments. It's also where they receive assignments and submit assignments, so they can turn work back into you. Here's the biggest benefit for us as teachers to Schoology and to using Schoology assignments. If you create an assignment or a graded material in Schoology and you send it to the student, and the student responds and sends it back into Schoology, into you through Schoology, you can grade that digital file within the Schoology environment. So you can do the grading in Schoology. Grading that you do in Schoology, if your materials are set up correctly, will automatically go into the gradebook and be calculated and tabulated into grades. That process of transferring the grade from the top of the paper to the grade book, that all happens within Schoology on its own. That's why we use Schoology. No more errors, putting it in the wrong column or the wrong assignment. You added an assignment and you want it to be over here instead of over there. All of that can happen and move within Schoology. You don't have to recopy into an assignment book and then recopy onto report cards. If we do this and do this well, we can make those functions happen through the computer system, saving us an immeasurable amount of time as teachers. That's why we have Schoology, to manage and be the interface with kids, and going into Infinite Campus, which is the data information that administration needs and that other systems need to access our data and our information that helps us with a variety of administrative and reporting tasks. So that's why we have two. Yes, Infinite Campus is capable of sending out assignments. They do have what's called a student interface, a student portal. However, their student portal is a lot more picky. I don't know if that's the correct phrase, but it's a lot more detailed, and you need to be a lot more precise in using it than Schoology. Schoology is kind of like the warm, fuzzy, why we all get into teaching, working with kids, all those happy, wonderful pieces of being a teacher. That's Schoology. It is the face. It makes it easier. It's more graphic. It uses these icons. Infinite Campus is more straightforward. It's a database. It has lines. You can create links. You can create all those things. It is possible to do the same teaching practices. but it requires a lot more in-depth learning and a lot more attention to detail. Think about your Infinite Campus page that you look at. The type is smaller, the font is smaller, the lines are tighter together. There's a lot more places where you could click or miss a click or misclick something. Schoology is a lot more forgiving. It's a lot easier for students to use and to learn. That's why we use Schoology for learning management, Infinite Campus for data. It's not 1,000% the absolute easiest. Yes, there are things that we have to learn, but the more we practice with it, the more structured we are with it, the more we learn with it, the better we are at using it and the more efficient the sync. That's what this course is about. So everything I just told you, you can find that information in these pages. But setting up grades in Schoology, that's where we need to start. Now, this is exciting to me in my happy little tech geek teacher land, but it should be exciting to you as well. Number one item I want you to know is that starting with the 21-22 school year, we will be able to sync grade categories from Schoology into Infinite Campus. Now, why is that important to you? Remember how when you synced last year, you would get your assignments hung up in that little red box in the upper right corner that said uncategorized assignments. Or you would call me and say, I set up all these categories and they're not in Infinite Campus. What's the point? Why do I even bother? Well, all I had last year was to say, you're right, there is no point. But we spent a lot of time working with Schoology and talking about the issues and working through the things that we were struggling with. And Schoology did some development over the summer. So now, with their new version of their sync app within Schoology, the categories will transfer from Schoology into Infinite Campus. So the only way that works is if we map them and we match them. We are setting up five categories in Infinite Campus to start the school year. Those categories are classwork, homework, quiz, test, and project. The first thing you want to do, the right now thing that you want to do, is in your Schoology Sandbox course, tap on Grade Setup, go into here where it says categories, and you want to set these 5 categories up. It is super simple. We're going to add categories, so tap Add. Type in the title of your first category. You want it calculated by total points. Total points. I cannot emphasize that enough. Calculate by total points. It has to have a name. It has to have one of the 5 names I just gave you, and it has to be set by total points. Drop lowest is up to you. It depends on how you run your course. If part of your classroom practice is that you drop the lowest 1 or 2 grades in a specific category, go ahead and change that. If not, keep it at a 0, make that a manual adjustment later. It's entirely up to you. Must have a name, must have calculated by. These blue asterisks, these are your friends. You already know that you can't proceed unless you filled out the boxes associated with those asterisks. Once you have that done, you're going to hit create, and there is your category. It will pop up there. If you're doing this, and as I do the video, pause right now so that you can go through and add your classwork, homework, project, quiz, and test category. Okay, now that you have those 5 categories, one of them will have a star. You can change which one has the star. You can make any of them have a star. The star just means it's your default. When you create a new graded material, it will automatically go to that category until you change it and send it somewhere else. The rest of these items are certainly important to setting up a successful gradebook in Schoology. There is an entire course for that. I will reiterate those codes at the end of this presentation, but the set up your gradebook for Schoology Success, something like that, is the title of the course, and that's available this summer as well, and it goes more in depth into how and why we set up the gradebook. All right. So that is setting up grades in Schoology, making sure that you have your 5 categories. Next thing you need to know is that grades move from Schoology to Infinite Campus. That means in the world of the sync, Schoology is the master of the gradebook. When you hit the sync button in Schoology, you are sending all graded items, assignments, assessments, test quizzes, and graded discussions over into Infinite Campus. It will also, when it syncs, send over any updates to grades that you had or items you had previously created. And beginning this fall, it will send the category along with those assignments. Okay. When it sends the assignment, let me just qualify this grade item that it's sending over. It's going to send over an abbreviated title. It's going to send over a brief description, usually the first 2 or 3 sentences of your assignment description where you tell the students what to do. It's going to send over any grades. It will not send any comments that you've attached to those grades in Schoology gradebook. So just be aware of that comments you put in the gradebook are for your purposes as a teacher or for communicating directly with the student or the parents. They do not go into Infinite Campus. The only thing that goes into Infinite Campus is the summary information of the graded item, the actual grade, any updates or changes to previously synced graded items, and the category that's associated with the graded item. Okay, there's additional information that you can read as you go through this course. When you are syncing, Infinite Campus will create a new column in their gradebook for a new assignment if the title, the total number of points, and the grading period are unique. Okay, what that means, let me translate that, is if you create an assignment or you create a test or a quiz because you want to let kids know that it's coming and you have it set, all set up so that it's in the gradebook and it's syncing correctly, and you say it's going to be out of 100 points. You sync it over, it sends it and makes a column for that 100-point quiz. If as you approach the quiz date and it gets a little bit closer, you've modified it a little bit, you want to make some adjustments, and you decide that now it's only going to be worth 80 points because you didn't get as far as you wanted to, or you rethought how you were going to ask a question, when you sync the next time, it's going to make a new column for the same quiz, but out of 80 points because you changed the points. It created a unique set of data, a unique combination of title, total points, and grading period. You can do that. You just have to be aware of that because that can cause your totals score to skew and to be a little bit different. A lot of the times the problems we were having last year were a result of that. So figuring that out and keeping that in your brain early is going to be super important. All right, so those are the 2 learning pieces. Once you get through those, there is a quiz, a very brief 5-question quiz here on the setting up and understanding the Sync to Infinite Campus. The way that I have these quizzes set up is they are open to be resumable. You have unlimited attempts, and you usually have to get at least an 80% or 100%, depending on the quiz, in order to move on. So please take them, take a moment, go through them, make sure that you understand all the questions. Go back and redo it if you need to. It's super important. If I put it in a quiz, those are the core pieces that I want you to make sure you get out of this activity. All right. So now we're down into the orange and red folders for assignments, test quiz form, assessment, and discussion. These are our 4 units. As I said in the beginning, you are only responsible in order to complete and earn professional development credit for this course. You only need to create 3 of these, or complete, 3 of these folders. So choose the 3 that make the most sense for you, for your course, the way that you do your classroom practice, and the way that your students learn in your room. You can certainly come back and work on the other one that you didn't do at any time. You can work through it now. I'll give you bonus points if you do all 4, absolutely, but don't feel like you have to. And the reason I say that is you're probably familiar with assignments. We did a lot of that last year. Test quiz forms, pretty straightforward. I'm going to show you some ways to use those, not necessarily as a graded quiz, but just as a learning tool that you can kind of direct and guide the students through different instructional activities. Super helpful if you have someone who does need to learn remotely, even going forward, if for whatever reason that happens for any possible purpose. So that's definitely a possibility. Assessments is a relatively new material. It's new to us at Oley. We've only really started using it. I believe it became available the middle of school year 2021. We're going to take a deeper dive into that and see the advanced types of questions and formats that you can use in assessments. And then finally, discussions. You're probably familiar with that. So the basics are pretty simple. Let's go into them and learn what it takes to make them syncable and efficiently syncable into Schoology. So we're going to start with assignments. Within these unit folders, I've provided often a page that gives you school tutorials, video tutorials. My motto is work smarter, not harder. Schoology provides a lot of great resources via YouTube and via their Schoology website. Incidentally, the Schoology support site, you can access it from this blue dot down here in the bottom right corner of your Schoology window, or by going to support.schoology.com. Again, that's support.schoology.com for the Schoology help page. But they have a lot of great videos, and then there's a ton of other teachers who have made videos to explain this, so I'm certainly going to share their information with you as well. So you've got some videos to work with. And let's get into assignments. Assignments are the heart of the learning management system. It is the way that students can send information back to you and you can receive work from them. No more lost papers, no more lugging big folders back and forth for you or for the students. If you put their assignment submission in Schoology, and as I said before, the number one benefit is when you grade in Schoology, it automatically goes into the Schoology gradebook. And all of that happens, all that copy and paste happens on its own. But there are a lot of features. There's a lot of different things you need to know. So let's go through that. The first 4 criteria that you have to create an assignment, they have a blue asterisk next to them in the assignment creation window. If it has a blue asterisk, you already know that Schoology will not create the item unless you have filled in those boxes. It almost always has a default for you, with the exception of the name, and you cannot create an assignment or a graded item without giving it a name. So you must have name, a category. It can be ungraded if you're not ready for it to hit into your grade book, or assign it one of those 5 categories we set up. Factor, that should be a 1, and that relates to weighting of grades. We do not weight grades here at Oley. We do everything on a point basis, so that's part of why we set the points up earlier. Factor should be 1.0, and then a scale or a rubric. Numeric scale is the default. That means you can say that it's out of 10 points and set that scale any way that your little brain works it out. There is also an OVHS plus A plus or minus scale, and that relates to the scale that is published in our student handbooks. You can create additional rubrics or additional scales if your teaching assignment requires. Those are the 4 criteria required to create the assignment. The 4 criteria for the assignment to be entered into Schoology gradebook and synced into Infinite Campus. Name, so you already have that. Due date, extremely important. This establishes the assignment in upcoming work and in the Schoology calendar for students to see. That is super important for their executive functioning and for their parents to be supportive in helping them to know how to plan their work and work their plan for that. It must have a due date. It also must have a time in most cases. So dropping a time in of 11:59 p.m. means they can turn it up to midnight of the day that you said it was due, or you can set the time to the end of your school day if that's what you choose. Category. Ungraded work will not appear in any marking period gradebook. If you want it to sync, it has to have a category. If you are creating it and you want to just hold it because you don't want to you're not sure of the points, you want to wait until you know what the assignment's going to be, but you want students to be able to see it, leave it as an ungraded item for the time being, then it will not sync into Infinite Campus. Must have total points. Total points possible are key to calculating grades. No points possible, no grade booking. And then it must be published. The green dot on the bottom must be there. There's a variety of other tools and resources. You can read about how to use the dynamic content creator to make the assignment and the description more interesting. And you can certainly explore that. And I'm sure that in many cases you have. Let me pop over into, let me just check this. Nope, let me stay with this one. Let me go back here so I can add a material and we can take a look at what the add assignments looks like. So go to add a material, tap add assignments. Now we're ready to create an assignment. There's my test assignment, or I'm just going to say sample assignment. In the description box, you can use all of your tools here. Here's your insert content dynamic content creator. So you can add images, media, YouTube, Google Drive apps, links, build out equations if this is math or an advanced science where you need equations to happen. Lots of options to create your content. Due date, must have a due date. So I'm using a due date of the end of this term right now, and a time, and it has to have points. I want to keep this in classwork, but if I wanted it to be out of the grade book, I would leave it as ungraded. I want the period to be long term. And I have the scale here at the high school A+ or minus scale. Last thing I need to make sure that this syncs is it has to be published. Anything that is unpublished will not hit the gradebook, will not be viewable, and will not sync. So make sure that when you're ready for it to be synced, that you do have it published. Just a quick review of these other items down here. Submissions enabled. I made that mistake when I was setting up these courses. There was 1 or 2 items that did not have submissions enabled, so make sure you have that checked. Incidentally, after you have completed, the students have completed an assignment and you no longer want to accept submissions, disable submissions just by clicking that icon and making it go gray. Much better option than unpublishing. If it's published, but submissions are disabled, students cannot submit to it, but they can still see the assignment that was there. Think that through. Very valuable if you have kids and you need to have conversations with parents about whether or not an assignment was available, was submitted, and what it really told them to do. Keep it published so that you can go back in and see that, and parents can see that. You may need to share with, or the students may need to go back and access a previous assignment so that they can refresh or understand or remind themselves of what happened before. Keeping it published allows them to build from assignment to assignment and helps you to create a continuum of learning and development of the student on a scale towards mastery. When they can see what they've already done, they can reference it, create that point, go back to that moment in time, refresh their memory, and continue to build and move forward. So disable when you don't want them to be able to submit, enable, disable and enable when you, based on submissions, but always keep it published. The 3 dots is individually assigned. If you have an activity, an assignment that you've made available to everyone and then somebody was out and they came back, you don't want anybody else to be able to submit to it, but you need that student to do it, you can individually assign to any student who's already a member of your course. Be aware that it will disappear, quote unquote, disappear from your gradebook temporarily until your individual assignment is canceled and you go back to having it assigned to everyone. Then it will be available to everyone to see and you'll see it in your gradebook once again. That's it. That's the basics. And spoiler alert, the basics are the same for all 4 gradable materials. 4 criteria that have asterisks, you need to even make the material, can't do anything without those 4 criteria. Date and time, points, grading category, and what's the other one, are required, and grade point, date and time, total points possible, grading category, and published are required in order to make it hit the gradebook and hit the sync. Some additional materials here include a reference card from Schoology and a checklist that I created for each of you, for each of these 4 materials that you can use to help you make sure you've accomplished all the pieces when you're building your materials. I know sometimes it's easier to have a checklist on paper next to you, so you know that you've hit all the pieces until you get familiar with it. As you can see, when you hit this link for checklist, it's going to force you to make a copy. That's just so that you have a copy in your Google Drive. You can just go into your Google Drive and search for checklists and find these later. So I strongly recommend that you do that. Again, one more time, 4 items you must have to create the assignment in Schoology: name, category, factor, and rubric or scale. It will not create the category unless those have an assignment or have something in them. Must have to be entered into the Schoology gradebook for the Infinite Campus Sync, a due date and time, a category, total points, and it must be published. Then I've added some additional items that are useful if you're trying to build student independence. And if you want to customize and control access, it goes over those additional icons. So that's just another tool at your disposal that you can use when you're building an assignment. Okay, that's assignments. Let's go back. I'm going to go quickly into test, quiz, and forms. Now, this is one of the most versatile, and I absolutely love test, quiz, and forms for this purpose. Yes, it's called a test and a quiz. Yes, that can be anxiety inducing in some of our kids who are kiddos who want to always be first and tops and get all stressed out about that. However, if you train them and you teach them that using this format, this puzzle piece, is really just a way for them to show what they know and share information, you can also use it instructionally. So what I've done is I created this first test or quiz as an instructional piece. So I'm going to flip over to my student side here, go back into the course, and I want to show you, and you can obviously work your way through it to see just how you use a test quiz form instructionally. Okay. Okay, start new attempt. So the way that I set this up, I used a variety of tools and features, but I relied heavily on text as a question format and also on that insert content text creator. So what I've done here is I've started off by giving you instructional materials, some instructional information. A test quiz in Schoology can be so much more than an assessment. And by creatively using these formats, you can create a learning path and guide students through a mini presentation, complete with practice activities and formative self-correcting assessments. Okay, we are super duper hoping we are not going to be having another virtual year in 21-22 like we did in 2021. However, this is a tool that you can use because there's always those kids who are going to be out of your classroom for some reason, whether it's because they're at a competition for another class or another program they're in, they're on a vacation, they have an injury or an illness. There's always somebody who needs to make up work. Using this format, you can provide your instruction to them in a way that they can access it independently on their own. You can guide them and sort of force their hand at having to at least be exposed to instructional material you've created before they jump to answering the assignment or doing the quiz or doing the whatever it is that you're provided for them to do as the activity. By using this test quiz as a teaching and instructional form, you can guide their direction when they're not with you in a similar way that you would do it if you were in the classroom. So using text, I used indentations, I used bullet lists, all those kinds of things, added some images to give you the basic information. Okay, so you have to get through that to move on to the next page. Now, telling you a little bit more about creative question formats. There are the different formats: true, false, multiple choice, ordering, short answer and essay, fill in the blank, matching. You can pull questions in from a question bank. That also means as you're creating your test or quiz, you can save into a question bank, which would be accessible in your resources. You can import a test or a quiz from your resources or from another teacher's resources that they've shared with you. You can insert a page break or a text. This page and the first page are just text. There's no actual question format on here. It's entirely just the text piece. Each question format has a dynamic text editor. That is this icon, the square with the arrow going in from an angle. That allows you to insert content. You can use images, media, links, symbols, equations, Google Drive resources, YouTube websites, YouTube videos, other embedded apps. Make this versatile. So if you are using, say, an online link that you want the students to do, you want them to learn some stuff, you want to give them some information, and then you want them to go to a website about weather patterns that you found, and that website, that weather pattern website has an embedded activity in the website. You can give them your instruction first, give them a couple of text pages about it, and then embed, using this insert tool, the link to the website activity that you want them to do. So it's one of the options you have for directing students and embedding work. In that way, they have to see your instruction before they go to the link. So that's a way to control and to direct them as you want. Then, of course, you have a variety of questions that you can put in. So I'm just going to answer these quickly. I'm going to be a terrible student and not actually read the question. But even after asking a question, I've gone back and embedded some more video that you can watch, and it talks to you about all the different types of questions that are available. Another comprehension question. And again, now it's just a page that has video as well as an image and some text and a question. That you can answer. And here we go, to the end of the form. All right. So when it gets to the end, I have this particular quiz set up that you can review answers. So if you have allowed students to review answers, as you know, they can go back and take a look at it, see what you've already put, what you've provided them. Now we're seeing all of the instruction in a row, all in one tool. If I want to change my answer, I can click return, change answer, go back to review the answers again. Just more options and opportunities to use this as a form for independent learning. Students are directing their own learning, working their way through it to complete the task. When a student has determined that they're done and they're ready to submit, they scroll to the bottom and tap submit. Now, here is where the way that you set up the test or quiz can be super powerful. I've enabled this quiz to allow students to see and their answers after submission. Because I used all objective question formats, true, false, matching, ordering, all things that I could set up ahead of time and tell Schoology what the correct answer was, Schoology has already graded it for me. Just saved myself another 45 minutes to an hour of sitting with worksheets while I'm trying to eat pizza and watch TV in the evening. So that it is graded. I can scroll on through, and now the student can immediately see the answer they gave and whether it was correct or not. Within the Schoology test quiz settings, you can provide a message if they get the answer correct, and a message, a reteach message, if they got it wrong. In this case, I was correct. It tells me why. Correct tells me why. Incorrect. I did not set an explanation for this question. If I had, it would be a yellow box that says incorrect, and it would explain to me why it was incorrect. Same here, I just didn't set that feature. But here's an example. The answer was true, I chose false, and here it gives me the explanation as to why it was false. All of the quizzes you will encounter in Teachers Tech Academy are set up with this format because I've set them up with an expectation of 100% or an 80% grade. If you get less than that, I don't want you to have to start over. I don't want you to have to wait for me to go in and see that it's less than what I expected and reset it for you. I provided all the answers. You can go through, read them, figure out why it's wrong, memorize the correct answer, whatever you need to do to learn the information, and then you can go back and start a new attempt and continue and do it again. So you can keep on working until you hit the grade that you need to hit in order to achieve and to move on for the course completion requirements. The other items I've provided here, just some more support information and links to the support. Again, a checklist. There is a discussion post here about how you would use tests and quizzes and what questions you still have. Certainly, as you're going through the discussions, if there's already questions there and you know the answer, please extend the learning. Share your knowledge, answer the question, and check back into the discussion later to see what people have asked. The assignment for this particular unit, the test quiz unit, is for you to create a test or quiz that can be automatically entered in the gradebook and will sync to Schoology. So pull out that checklist, make sure you hit all the requirements, then create a screen recording that shows the settings and preview of your test quiz to submit to the assignment. Now, listen carefully, and you will be able to eventually see this set of directions in the red resources folder. I have to make it after I do this video and submit and put it in there. When you are making a screen recording on your keyboard, you are going to hold down Command Shift 5. Command Shift 5. Command Shift 5 brings up a bar across your screen. It's not going to record, or I would show you right now. Brings up a bar across your screen that allows you to take a picture or to record your entire screen. If you do Command Shift 5, you can take a screen recording that saves directly to your desktop. You can go into your test or quiz, show me the settings that you set up and explain why you set them up. Show me a preview of your test quiz to show the questions you've created, work your way through it, and then tap the stop recording button, which will be an icon at the top of your screen. It will be a white circle with a blacked out or blued out square in the middle. Tap that to stop it. It will save your screen recording on your desktop, and then you can submit that here at Submit Assignment by uploading to show your screen recording. And that's how you create the test or quiz. Now, let me go in and just show you the settings that I was telling you about. So in the settings window, You give instructions that explain to the student what they need to do, what they need to answer. Here I've said you need 5 out of 5 correct. You have unlimited attempts to complete the activity. Only your highest score will be saved. So I've told you that as the learner, so you know what to expect. Submissions can be enabled until a time, or enabled in a specific time window. And that window can be a date and a time, or just a date, whatever you prefer. So if you'd like to use this and have them do this only during your class where you can watch them, set your date, set your time for enable from and until, and it will automatically be accepting submissions during that time. Time limit is optional. If you want them to only be able to spend 5 minutes on the quiz or whatever, you can set that. Attempt limit, anything from 1 to unlimited, and grade by highest, last, or average score. You've probably done this before. Randomized order. When I am using a test or quiz format as an instructional tool, I do not want to randomize the order, because the whole purpose is I want them to have to do the work in the order that I've set for them. That's also a good time to consider paging and make it be 1 question per page. So again, they're focused and they're going through one at a time, the pages and the order of activities you've set. Question review, that's where it allowed the students to go back and review the questions and the answers they've chosen before they actually submit. Resumable, always a good idea. As we experienced last year, inevitably, there is going to be delays, there's going to be dropped internet, dropped Wi-Fi, a kid's going to leave a classroom. There's a million reasons why they might need to legitimately stop the test and come back at it. Save yourself some aggravation, make it be resumable. When you are done and you don't want them to submit it anymore, just disable submissions. It's much simpler than dealing with a non-resumable test and then a minor catastrophe that becomes a major catastrophe because you have to stop what you're doing and change all the settings for everyone in the middle of the test. Finally, view submissions. Nope, you can say they don't review submissions at all. It is what it is, and they'll get it back when you're ready to show them. You can allow them to see what they've submitted without seeing the correct answers, or they can see it with correct answers. Again, it depends on your purpose and how you're using this particular test or quiz. Printing options, if you need to print it for any other reason, those are all there. Make sure that anytime you make a change, you are saving your changes. So that is the basics of a test and quiz. The wheel for editing, that's where you edit and set up your parameters and your criteria that allows it to sync. These settings are for how the students actually experience the test or quiz. Okay, always go to the gear or the wheel edit to make sure that you have it set up correctly, that it can sync into your Infinite Campus gradebook when the time comes. Okay, that's test quiz form. So I'm going to go back, and the third option is assessments. Now, let me pop back over here to your view. Setting up an assessment in Schoology. There is a ton of information. This is relatively new, and Schoology has provided an entire playlist of videos to help you set up each question. To be quite honest, I'm still new at using assessments, so we're going to learn about this together this year. But if you are giving higher stakes assessments or you're giving more specific questions than you could create in the test quiz format, assessment might be the place for you to start. The first video I provided is about 4 minutes. So go ahead and pause this video if you want to, watch it and get the background, and then we can continue. The playlist link, by the way, is down here at the bottom. I want to say there's probably about 15 short videos, all in the 2 to 4 minute range, about each different type of question that really help you to understand the nuances of setting up the question, the reasons and rationale and purpose for the questions, and how to make sure that you have customized it and created it and using it in the way that you intend to use it for the purposes you intend to use. All right, I did provide a sample assessment here for you. Now, this assessment is password locked just to show you that it is possible. You probably would not want to put the password in the actual instructions. The reason that you would most likely use a password on an assessment is if you wanted it to be there so it was ready and you knew it was good to go, but you didn't want the kids to work on it until they were in your class sitting in front of you. Again, if you do this and you do this in an objective manner, they can take this assessment. It can be a legitimate full-scale assessment. They can record their answers on Schoology. You don't have to grade it. if you've asked only objective questions, and it will automatically put the grade into the grade book for you. Again, huge time saver in having to grade tests and papers. But if you're going to do that, you probably want to create a password so they can't just, first period can't go tell your last period over lunch or whenever that here's the test, here's how you're going to access it, go ahead and get it done. Set a password and set it customized for each class period that you have so that they have to get that password from you. You can certainly write it on the board so they can come in, sit down and do it, but you probably don't want to put it into the instructions here like I have. The only reason I've done that is because you're not going to be in my classroom when you do this activity. So the password to take the assessment, OVSD teach. Caps are important, so all capital OVSD, capital T for teach. You're going to go into it, type in your password, and you can get started. Now, these are random general knowledge questions. I did this quickly just to show the different types of questions that are available. Pause the video and work your way through the assessment. While you pause and do that, I'm going to flip over to my teacher page and show you how it gets built. Okay, so we're going to look in the guts of the sample assessment for training. So the first thing we have is setup, and you, again, just like a regular test quiz format, are going to provide you instructions, and then you have your settings options. Now, there's a lot of options for assessment settings, and this is really a cool tool considering that our PSSAs and our keystones are going to be online for the foreseeable future. The reason this is so neat is because Schoology assessment has embedded the same types of highlight, protractor, ruler tools that our students will encounter when they use the DRC eDirect site for their keystones or their PSSAs. So you can start teaching those materials and using those tools in a much more natural method early in the school year, just by using assessments regularly, get them comfortable so that there is no learning curve and there is no tool use issue when they're taking the high stakes assessments. Just another tool in your arsenal, another opportunity you have to impact that particular learning activity. Okay, so assessment settings, here's where you can set your toolbars. We have an opportunity for students to flag questions for review, eliminate answer choices, use a calculator during the attempt. There's a basic calculator and a scientific calculator. Use a ruler, either a 15 centimeter or a 6-inch ruler. Use a protractor, highlight text, use a notepad. Certainly not all of these options might not be available in DRC Direct, but it's a good idea to kind of work your way through and introduce different tools to the students early in their learning career so they can start to use them effectively, and you can test and assess the knowledge of their tool use as well as their general rote knowledge. Finally, student settings, allow them to review results after an attempt is submitted, same as the test quiz. Number of times they can submit an attempt. In assessment, 20 is the max, so I've given you the max. And the final grade determined again by highest or last score. So those are the details for setting up the assessment. Now, when you get into questions, you can see there are a lot more question items. I'm not going to go through them in this webinar. You can come in here and click and play around with them, see what the different options are. Starts out with your standards, fill in the blank text, drop down or drag and drop, whichever works for you. Short answer essay, audio, video recording, where the students are submitting an audio or a video recording. You can direct them to that. File upload, label image. Oops, that's not how I wanted to show you. My apologies. Label image allows you to create a picture. Oops, that's not what I want to see either. Sorry, Donna and Melissa. We're going to take a quick peek at this. Just because I found that this was really interesting. Set up your question, give them their directions. You can upload an image, give it a title. And here's the picture. You add in the response boxes and then the positive responses. So the student can drag the response into the box. You set it as to what it looks like when it's correct. Determine if they have to have an exact or a partial match, if you want any penalty. Lots of options you can play around with, even more setup options. but this is a pretty neat feature to convert an offline paper and pencil test from any of our curriculum resources into an online test that is objective and gradable. Certainly there are going to be times when you need to have essay tests, or you need to have them objective, or you still want them to do paper and pencil, and that is perfectly fine. You can set subjective essay, short answer and essay questions in this assessment format as well. It just means that you have to go back and grade those actual pieces. So I just wanted to take a moment and show you that that was available. Brings us to the assignment and the activity for this folder. So the assignment is to convert an assessment that you currently have on paper into an online Schoology assessment. And here's my recommendation. Don't shoot for the moon the first time out of the box. Make this a simple one. Find an assessment that is something you would use early in the school year, probably not going to be the most rigorous assessment of your life. Give yourself one or two stretch types of questions that you want to explore, and use that to convert into an online Schoology assessment. Make it something you're pretty sure you're going to use anyhow. Make sure that all of these activities you're doing in this course are something you're going to use anyhow. I don't know about you, but I do not have time in my life to do things for the sake of doing them. Even if it's for the sake of learning a new strategy, I want to make that topic and that subject matter be useful in my career and in my teaching job, so that I don't have to go back and remake it later. So take advantage of that and do that with these assessments and these activities. You're going to convert that offline assessment into a Schoology assessment and then submit it here. So I say in here to put it in your resources folder and bring it over into the Schoology, submit it from there. We were having some problems doing that. If you cannot submit from your resource folder, take a screenshot, take a screen video using Command-Shift-5 and submit that video. That is perfectly fine. But yeah, that is the assignment for the assessments folder, and of course another checklist for you to use that you can save or print however you would like to access that. Last one is discussions. Discussions are actually my favorite. This is what we started teaching the younger kids this year, because it was easy for them to either voice record or take a photo of their response and send it in, and still have to do a little bit of typing in order to make that be posted. So in the discussion folder, of course, I'm using discussions for you to experience and to check them out and try them out and understand them all the way and from all different perspectives and angles. So for discussions, you can set and create a graded discussion. Again, needs a title, it needs category, it needs period or factor, it needs a scale rubric. In order for it to transfer, it also needs a date and a time, it needs points, and it needs a grading period. You can use a grading scale or a rubric. For this first discussion, I've used what I've created as the professional discussion rubric, which uses ISTE standards, is aligned to ISTE standards, and those are the standards that are in the rubric. Creating a rubric for discussion helps to teach students how to discuss and how to create dialogue and have dialogue. You'll see as you go through here, there's already discussion going on about the need for creating dialogue, because students don't just inherently come to us anymore with conversation skills. It's a digital world, they're not necessarily talking, and that's one of the things that we know our students need to get better at: explaining their ideas, defending their ideas, persuading people to agree with them. You can use online discussion in order to help support that, and the rubric gives them direction as to what is expected of them and how much they need to share when they're using an online discussion format in order to achieve different grade levels. So certainly explore and use the rubrics effectively. There's a variety of reasons why you would use a discussion either as a graded or an ungraded activity, but you need to be aware that a discussion, this is how students are passing notes in the 21st century. Whereas many of us in our generation would have taken a piece of paper and written super tiny, folded it up into a football and flicked it across the room. Using a discussion post allows students to send information back and forth to one another. This is one of the few places within Schoology where they can directly speak to each other and communicate with each other through the Schoology platform. That means it needs to be managed. This is part of classroom management. Please understand that technology helps us to work more efficiently. It does not replace solid classroom management. We need you. We need you in the classroom. Your students need you to set the ground rules, to set the parameters, to set the expectations, and then to hold them accountable. So you need to have the expectations for how students will work in a discussion, and you're going to need to actively teach them how to do that. Consider lots of different opportunities to use discussions, not always as a graded item or graded activity. Sometimes a discussion can just be a good reflection. Providing a discussion online allows a student who will never in a million years actually raise their hand and speak in class. If you give them time to think and you give them a safe, comfortable way that they can record or share their ideas, you'll be surprised how much they'll open up and how much they will know, and they will be willing to show you what they know when they don't have to speak out loud in front of their peers to do it. Please carefully consider using graded discussions and ungraded discussions for a variety of purposes in your class. If you want more information about this, there's certainly more information within this folder, lots of different opportunities and ways to look at and think about discussion, but there's an entire class in the Summer Teachers Tech Academy on Schoology discussions to support classroom dialogue, where we dig deeper and we talk about all the different uses of a discussion within Schoology. Please also be aware that discussions look different on the mobile app on the iPad versus the browser. Chances are pretty high you're accessing this course from your laptop. So you're going to be familiar with what a discussion looks like and how you reply and respond to it on a browser. If your students are in K-8, it's different on an iPad. I have this file that explains how to turn in work on discussions. It's linked down here at the bottom. If you're a K-8 teacher, please take this PDF, use it, print it, save it, share it with your kids, but also take the time to view this course on your teacher iPad so you understand the difference, because it will make a world of difference in your instruction. All right, mechanics of creating a discussion, how to actually do it. I have a video for you. I have a quick response card. You can certainly go through that on your own time. And then there's additional discussion prompts. The discussion prompts are important to understand the variety and the ways that you can build out a dynamic discussion prompt. Again, this can be instructional. It does not have to simply be a way to get response from students. You have text, you can use bullets or numbers, you can change the color, highlight, add superscript, add subscript. Lots of ways that you can build and customize the text portion of your discussion prompt. You can add images and you can add videos. Certainly take a moment and watch this video. It's really interesting on the habits of creative people. Lots of different ways that you can build out the discussion to engage students and draw them into dialogue, even if it is virtual dialogue. The last thing I want to say about discussions is about the rubric. Now, this rubric that is in this particular discussion, the discussion prompts discussion, this is an introductory rubric that I use for students, and I have it fairly standard. If you'd like access to it, send me a message and I can share it with you through resources. It's a 4-point rubric designed to get kids talking and using discussions appropriately. So an excellent maximum grade on the discussion post, a 4 out of 4, is that the student has typed a few sentences that state an opinion, a position, or a fact related to the discussion topic. What I'm going for here is they're on topic and they're using reasonably appropriate sentence structure for their age, grade, and capability level. It means something different to all of us depending on where your kids are at. So it doesn't have to be no errors, 100% correct punctuation if that's not where your students are. But it's reasonably appropriate, more than one sentence, and it's on topic or related to the topic. Certainly my expectations for that change as the school year goes on. In the beginning, it's pretty broad. Towards the end of the year, my expectations I've already communicated to them are a little bit higher, that they're a little more on topic and they're engaging a little deeper in the discussion. But this is a great place to start. A level 3 is typed an appropriate sentence. Uno, one sentence, that's the goal. And that's really where I expect them to be. That's what I want them to do, is get me one good sentence in response to my discussion prompt. That's a legitimate place to start, regardless of their age level. Satisfactory is they've joined the discussion and they've typed something, probably not a full sentence, but something that relates to the discussion. That tells me they're aware that there's a discussion, they're aware that there's a topic, they've engaged or experienced the topic in some way, and they're sharing something about it. That's satisfactory. I'm willing to start with that because I can work from that place. Number 1, needs improvement. That means either they've not typed anything or they've not typed anything relevant to the discussion. You certainly, even in a rubric, can give them a 0 if they've just not engaged in the discussion at all. But if they've typed something completely off topic, one year when I did first introduce discussions, the word bacon was the thing in 4th grade. So every discussion I created had some kid who just typed bacon, 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 bacon down the discussion post, like 25 lines of bacon. That's a 1. Yes, they engaged. They typed something. They acknowledged that I gave them an assignment to some degree. That was an expectation because we were just introducing Schoology, but it was so clearly off topic that I couldn't give them legitimate points or response to it. That's a needs improvement. Yes, thank you for engaging with my discussion, but let's talk about what you're doing here and let's find a way to improve. So that's just a basic criteria for a discussion scale. As I said, you have to manage what they say. So I'm just going to type a sample comment and post it. When the students are posting, you as the teacher will be able to see these 3 vertical dots. This is called the More menu. And from here, you can delete what they've typed. Now, I want to caution you about not overusing delete. First of all, you don't want to delete a student and their voice. That sends a very negative connotation, does not make this a safe place for expression, and that's ultimately what we want in our classes. We may need to guide them into how to express, but we want to encourage their opportunity and their desire to express and share their information. But sometimes you're going to have comments that are so far out of inappropriate that they are bullying, cyberbullying, or otherwise not something you want in your discussion post. Before you delete, if it is a comment that can come back and need to be part of a set of evidence or experience with cyberbullying or an issue like that, take a screenshot. Command-Shift-4 takes just a screenshot of your page. You're going to want to take a screenshot. Your cursor changes to the crosshairs. You can highlight and take a shot of just the information. If it says today and the time, I would recommend screenshotting the entire screen so you capture the date at the top of your screen, and you can see it pops up here. You can open it, and now you have a record or an evidence if you need it, depending on what the comment is. Obviously, sometimes you don't want the comments to live there because you want them, you don't want any other students to see them, and you don't want them to continue a discussion or to continue on a path of bullying that you certainly don't want to support. But before you delete something that is a potential discipline issue, save yourself some hassle and screenshot it, keep it in a folder on your desktop so you have it available as necessary. All right. That is the mechanics of discussions. Your final assignment in this folder is to create a discussion for a unit that you will teach in the first marking period of the new school year. Take a screenshot of the discussion prompt and share it here. And then after you share that image, tell us how your students will respond, if the discussion post will be graded or ungraded, and how you will introduce the discussion assignment to students. Comment on someone else's post. So here I've gone ahead and done that. I took a screenshot of my discussion. I told you they will respond with images and text. It's graded using a rubric, and it's part of an online course, so they will respond as part of their completion workflow. And that's how you get that piece finished. So that's discussions. I think we covered everything. Again, you have your 4 asterisk pieces, due date, time, grading is enabled. It's got a period. I used a rubric, and I have it published. The last piece that I want you to be aware of is an option that is unique to discussions. You can require your class members to post before revealing other responses. So if you do that, they're not going to see what anyone else has typed until after they have typed and submitted their response. Then they'll be able to see everyone else. So use that carefully and with intention. There are certainly times when you just want an open dialogue and you want them to see each other. Most of the discussions I've posted are open. You can see what other people have typed before you do it. Other times, if you're using it for grade or if you're doing more of a formative assessment and you really want to know what each student knows about something, feel free to set it that they have to post before they see what other people have posted. It gives you a little bit more of an honest answer. It gives them more of a chance to really say what they know or what they're thinking before they have a chance to be disillusioned by what others are thinking. And you know your class best. If peer pressure is an issue, make a choice, but just be aware that that's an option that you have. Those are our 4 graded materials: assignments, test quiz forms, assessments, and discussions. I have this red Schoology rubrics optional activities for you to go through and consider. There's no actual assignment to it, but as I've shown, rubrics are a tremendous help and a support when you are guiding and directing students. And let's face it, we're teachers. That is what we do all day, every day. So there are resources here for you to explore in terms of rubrics. I go into more depth with rubrics in the Schoology Gradebook Setup for Success course, where we really talk about the how and the why, the strategies and the purposes behind rubrics, and the different tools that are available, and how you can keep them accountable to a rubric. That is one set of resources all its own. And then, of course, there are other resources that talk about a variety of different strategies, ways to set up graded items. This is a PowerPoint that I created last year as we were finding out a lot of these different tips and tricks. So that might be something you want to just keep on your desktop that you can refresh. And our norms for instructional technology are in this and every course. So please take a moment and familiarize yourself with the norms as we are developing our skill across the district as instructors using technology. The last thing in here is your final performance task. Let me just reiterate one more time. You need to choose any 3 of the 4 graded items, gradable items from this course, make something with those gradable items and submit it as your final performance task. Listen, it's summer, we had a heck of a year. So if you want to use a gradable item that you already created in the folder and pull that together into your final performance task, that is perfectly fine with me. You can reuse items for this course. If after going through it, you've rethought something and you're thinking of a specific lesson and you want to go for it, by all means, take this time now to build those materials and submit them as your final performance task. I care more that you've thought about it and you've attempted to put it together than the fact that it's perfect. But if you submit it as your performance task, I will go through it and give you feedback. So if you want my feedback, by all means, use something live that you will actually use with kids, and I will do my best to look through it and get it back to you in a timely manner. So your performance task is 3 gradable items. It's going to be either screenshots or a screen recorded video. Put them all together and then add a brief summary of each item and how you will use it in the context of your classroom. So that last item is super important, a brief summary and how you will use it in the context of your classroom. Submit that along with your performance task item to complete this course. When you're finished, the very last thing is the Teachers Tech Academy course wrap-up. There's a form here. Please take a moment and complete this form. This is where I'm going to ask you just for some feedback on the presentation of the course, what worked for you, what didn't work, and also any other suggestions for other topics so I can make this timely and relevant. And then just a little bit of promotion here. I do have the, I do not have the ability to open this up and show this to you. Full screen, there we go. So I do have the Teachers Tech Academy full course catalog along with all of the class codes for you to take a look at, enter in and choose. You can enter any of these sessions for the Teachers Tech Academy. They are entirely optional this summer. These courses and these specific sections of them will be available until August 22nd. All work is due on August 22nd. I will reopen the courses in a new section for September, and my expectation is that we will continue to have Schoology professional development courses available with these and other similar topics driven by what you put into the final assessment evaluation form for me. We will continue developing these so that you can asynchronously learn and build your Schoology skills in the future. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for hanging in with me. And do send me a message, an email if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to help. That's all I got. So have a great rest of your day.